everyone around me.
Premed Office Hours. It is Wednesday, November 12th. We're talking COVID, wearing masks, the sheeps and the lions, or whoever the opposite of the sheeps are. I don't know. Whenever I hear people talking about sheep still,
Keep
I'm like,
your germs away from all of us.
I know what you're talking about. What's going on? My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters Mapped, host of the Premed Years podcast, author of the Premed Playbook series. I have all 3 books near me today. I usually don't. All the books. Joining me today are the co-hosts. This is the first time we've had you both together in a while on
Yeah,
on the Premed Office Hours. Dina Golini, former senior admissions officer for Stanford School of Medicine, former assistant director of advising at Brown University's Warren Alpert Medical School, and co-host of the Med School Years podcast, episode 15, rocking and rolling. 16 coming out.
17 is coming out.
Why
tomorrow.
am I always like one behind?
I'm
always one behind. 17 tomorrow. Super excited. Who's the guest tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Nicole Hines, who is an M3 at the Warren Alpert Medical School at Brown University.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway with her?
I think, and Carlos, I think if you can help me with this, she really does talk a lot about how med school is hard, right? And just taking care of yourself and just things that they don't tell you in med school. She also did a special master's program. She was one of my students when she got out of Barnard. So having that journey in between. And I think she talked a lot about getting off the wait list. We talk a lot with our students about how this is a really long cycle. And she was very fortunate, very late in the cycle, after reapplying to get off the wait list at Brown, and it just worked out for her. But there are those months where you have to juggle, right? If you are waitlisted, potentially reapplying. And I think she talks a lot about that, which is helpful.
Cool. All right. Also joining us, Carlos Tapia, former director of student affairs at Icahn School of Medicine, former director of admissions at TCU, and also co-host of the Med School Years podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I caught something. I didn't wear a mask, so I think I caught something.
Didn't wear a mask.
I'm feeling a slow decline. Like I woke up okay, and I think it's just getting progressively like my body's like, fight it off. But don't ask me what number, because I took your advice after, what is it, 5-10 podcasts?
Yeah.
I
don't even know what episode we're on Premed Years. Yeah, you just forget about it. But awesome. Medschoolyears.com, Apple Podcasts. I was going to say Google Podcasts, but Google killed Google Podcasts. Spotify, YouTube, go check it out. We're here to answer questions, though, for you all. Krista says, hello. Excited to be here.
Hello.
Roy Bathosh. I interviewed at a DO school about a month ago. I'm an out-of-state applicant. Is it early to send a letter of intent? They also want to say thank you for all of the work and advice. I got accepted last week. I think your videos and advice have helped me achieve this goal. Congrats.
Awesome. Congrats.
Dina, when is too early to send a letter of intent? So post-interview letter of intent.
I think maybe there's a little bit of a difference for MD versus DO, since a lot of DO schools do rolling admissions. I think in general, a lot of students will interview at schools, and then like 2 days later, they're like, I want to send a letter of intent. But you need to give schools the chance to actually bring you to admissions committee and go through the process of discussing you, evaluating you, and generating a decision. I think if it's been a month, I probably at this point would send a strong continued interest letter, like, thank you for the opportunity to interview. I'd like to reaffirm my strong continued interest. And then think about the letter of intent maybe a little more down the road. Also, it sounds like you already have an acceptance somewhere else. So when you send the letter of intent, really you're telling schools, if you give me a spot, then I will commit to attend. And it sounds like you might have some other options coming in that you might want to weigh in terms of financial aid and things like that.
Yeah, love it. I want to clarify one thing, Dina. You mentioned because it's a DO school and they do rolling admissions. Most medical schools do rolling admissions, right? MD or DO?
True. I think there are more med schools that the process is a little longer. For example, like a majority of Ivy League schools will all release in the spring.
Yep.
So, to send a letter of intent now, I feel like the turnaround for DO is a little faster than MD. Just the trend I'm seeing this cycle, especially.
Yeah, I've talked to the DO folks about that. I'm like, it kind of reeks a little of desperation. And
and their traffic rules are different, right?
Yep.
So I think especially before December 15th, I think there's a longer wait period to send a deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The reeking of desperation. Yeah.
I call a spade a spade.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, no shade to the DO schools, but I mean, get your house in order, friends. Chad asks, is it worth applying to Texas medical schools if you have no ties to the state? Applying in 2026. Carlos, you were a former director of admissions at TCU, which was not part of TMDSAS as a private medical school, although Baylor is private and part of TMDSAS. So that distinction has gone away a little bit. But Texas law for TMDSAS schools says, hey, 10% of your class maximum can be from out of state. If a student knows that going into the process, my stance has always been, as long as you know that, if you want to go to Texas schools, it's just time and money, right?
Yeah, I think for TCU specifically, you can apply if you're out of state. And I think I've looked at their stats are kind of pretty even in terms of out of state, in state. I think if you're applying to Texas state schools or those that participate in TMDSAS, I would say from a cost standpoint, to your point, it is, I would say, cheaper, right? It's like 14 programs for what, $100 and something, and you send your application to all.
$230.
There you go, $230 for 14 programs there right off the bat. So it just depends. I think you're going to have to maybe have a hard sell as to why you're coming to Texas or why you're interested in Texas schools, when I would say the state of Texas has enough applicants to fill spots. But again, you know the rules, you know the warning signs. You just have to decide whether you want to apply or not.
Yeah, I think to me that's the biggest thing, is just right from an informed consent standpoint. Who's got the dumpster next to them? Can mute you. I don't know who it is.
They're collecting trash outside.
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yeah, I can hear it. You just mute for a minute. From an informed consent standpoint, as long as you know, right? As long as you know going into the process, whether it's applying to TMDSAS schools, knowing that, hey, as an out-of-state applicant, my chances are much, much lower, or applying to AMCAS and applying to 20 public schools that have strong in-state bias, and you don't know that they have strong in-state bias because you didn't purchase the MSAR and it doesn't include that information when you actually add each school to the application. I mean, that to me would be the best, is when you go to add the school in AMCAS, that it says, like, you're an out-of-state applicant. Last year's class, here was the out-of-state interview rate or out-of-state acceptance rate. I would love if AMCAS included that information, but they won't. You have to buy.
It goes to the conversation we're having about letters of intent, right? Professionally, intent means that you intend to matriculate to that program, but the reality is that you control your own process, right? You could send letters of intent to all schools, and whoever bites back, I would say then you have decisions to make, right? I don't professionally, again, I get the reason why, but the reality is that you as a consumer have control of what decisions and what programs you attend and decide to pursue your education with. So even if you were to send 20 letters of intent, I don't think a school can really hold it against you. But professionally, it's just a professional thing to do. And I think that was the reason there was a couple lawsuits several years ago of you are the consumer, you control the decision at the end of the day.
Yep. Yes. Will interview invites be slowing down until the new year? I submitted early, and last interview invite was 2 months ago. I don't know, Dina, do you think kind of the admissions offices are slowing down for the holidays, so they're not going to send as many interview invites, or they'll send the interview invites, but the interviews just won't be until the new year?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a little bit of a lull with Thanksgiving and some time out of the office, and then a lot of schools go on break, for the holiday right after the third week of December. So I do think that it does slow down a little bit, but I'm seeing a lot of invites come in now for students who have had this lull and haven't heard anything for a few months. Now this week, I saw a lot coming out, and the interview dates are mid-December and even into January now.
Yeah.
So I think if you're still waiting, this is the time to send some update letters and continued interest letters.
Yep. Do schools use AI checkers? Maybe. Sure, they can.
Do I sound old if I say AI was not around when I was in school?
Definitely wasn't around when I was in school.
Yeah. I want to know what the goal of this question is, right? When you submit your AMCAS application now, AMCAS says, use AI to edit, use AI to brainstorm, just make sure the thoughts that you're laying out are your thoughts. So I think AI is here to stay. I don't know what they're checking for. Daniel, hello. Hope everyone had a good Veterans Day. What are your recommendations for update letters, as in when to send them and what to include in them? I would appreciate any advice. This is letter of intent and update letter time, and everyone is kind of scrambling, waiting on getting their dream school interview invites, wondering if they should send an update or a letter of interest or anything like that. Carlos, when you're looking at a student to go, hey, yeah, you should send an update letter. The first question is always, does the school actually accept one? What's your advice when you're telling or helping students figure out what to actually send?
I think it's updates, right? Not rehashing things that are in your application. I've included this in my application. I just want to bring attention to it again, or reiterate stuff that we already know. It truly should be updates. Anything relevant, new that you feel will make an impact in your application, I would say sway the committee one way or another. And even that's very difficult. So it should be to the basic point of just as many updates as you can include in a one-page letter. Don't make it 3 pages. Don't make it 5 pages. That becomes more of an essay, and they don't have time to review that. But I think it's just that simple updates of what you've been doing since you submitted your application. Close it out by expressing your continued interest in the program. Sign it, send it. Don't wait too long. I've had people that had asked me this question probably in September, and I said, I think by the end of September, October, you should start sending these out. And I think I went on vacation and I came back and they were like, oh, I'm thinking of this. And I'm still thinking, I'm like, you're just holding on to a letter, like trying to perfect this update. I'm like, you're sort of like prolonging. I don't know what the final thing. I think final email to the people I was communicating is like, you just need to send them at this point, right? Don't hold on for them forever. So
they're afraid of the rejection. We're all afraid of rejection at the end of the day.
No, I think they were trying to perfect what they were including in the letter and whether they should include something that was going to happen, but they were not sure it was going to happen.
Yep.
And so I'm like, there's a way to include it, saying that this is what you anticipate doing and leave it at that. I think they were trying to make more of that impact of like, if it's going to happen, I want to let them know versus I'm anticipating it's less of an impact. And I'm like, at this point, just send the update letter. You're delaying it more.
Yeah.
So don't take too long.
Yep. Don't take too long. A question over from Instagram. I currently volunteer at a hospital, which includes patient care. However, I don't get to shadow or interact with physicians as much. I've shadowed in the past. Would you recommend that I shadow more? I mean, my general stance is recency and consistency. Helps make it not look like you just checked a box off. So I'll leave it at that. Our AI checker question asker. I asked because my personal statement came up as 87% AI generated, and I didn't use AI. Those AI tools to check for AI, they're all built on BS. Don't use them.
Yeah, terrible.
It's nearly impossible to know if something uses AI. I get called out all the time. We talk about this because they're like, oh, one clear way to know if it's AI if they use too many EM dashes. I'm like, I use EM dashes all the time because I use them properly. Most Americans just don't use them because we don't know about them. And AI uses them properly, and so they use them more often. Yeah, don't use the AI checkers. Just do
There was a lawsuit at some undergrad institution where somebody was, I think, kicked out of the institution because they were caught cheating. It went through this process system, and the professor's like, "You were cheating," and the student was like, "No, I'm not." And so he was suing the institution for this reason.
I think the AI checkers ultimately will fail in a court of law if that ever happens. Plagiarism detectors, on the other hand, are looking like word for word based on what else is out there. And so that is much, I think, easier to be like, hey, 95% of your words are exactly in the same order as this other paper. You probably plagiarized.
It's the new lie detector, right? Lie detectors are not admissible in court.
Yeah, but they make for good TV. So
They do.
So does this. The question, 87%, right? And you're freaking out.
Yep. Yes. Here's an interesting question, Dina. If schools send interviews to those who have submitted after me, is it likely that I have been skipped over, or do schools stratify applicants by stats? So the age-old question is like, what's happening behind the scenes? And this is an interesting way that the student is basically saying, hey, is it based on just when we submitted, or is it based off of like ranking top stats from top to bottom, and I'm lower, and so it's going to take a while for them to get to me?
I think it depends. I also feel like someone is like, you're grabbing information from like SDN or something to even generate a question like this. It's really hard not to compare yourself to others, but it's also really hard to remove yourself from what happens in admissions, because there's no way to tell what each admissions office uses as the way that they process applications. But let's say that someone who submitted after you did get an invite. It could mean a variety of things. I mean, it could just mean you're in a pile of, we're not sure what to do with you yet. It's not a yes or a no. It could also be you are in a pile of, we intend to interview you, but there's a craft to putting together an interview group on each interview day. It's a representation of the school. And at the end of the day, it can't be a homogenous group. It can't be, 50 women. It can't be 50 men. It can't be 50 international students. I think that schools put a lot of effort into making sure that the group you see on interview day is diverse and reflective of what the student body would look like if you were a student there.
You know, it's interesting. I've never thought about interview day in that way. I know,
There's a
like, I
lot
think
there's a lot that goes into it that
yeah,
people
I
don't
think about it
realize.
from a building of the actual class standpoint, but the actual interview day, that's interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
We never did that. We did invite, you fill up, because we assume that everybody that's attending the interview is deemed qualified to be discussed by that
Yeah,
committee.
I think every school is different, but I think that, you know, you don't want somebody like I had somebody like that interviewed at, say, an Ivy League school last cycle who said, funny, I was one of only 2 men. And it was all women on the group. And you walk away from that thinking,
It leaves an impression.
It leaves an impression. Like, is this what the composite of my class would look like if I were a student here?
Depending on the guy, they might go, yeah, that's awesome.
Right? But I think every school does it differently. So to this question, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't get an interview. It might just mean maybe, you know, and did that person apply to a special program, like a combined like MD, MBA program? And on that particular interview day, we have everybody who's applied to a special program. Yeah. So
interesting.
A lot of different ways to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and ultimately, right, I think we say it all the time. It's one of the frustrating parts of the job is giving these answers that say it depends on the school. It depends on the school.
Does.
And that's the answer. And so my go-to is always like, stop worrying about all of the nuances that you just have no control over. And just go enjoy yourself, right? Go live life. And yes, all right, this is a stressful process and we all want to get in. We're trying to help as much as possible. Dylan says, has the cycle been moving slower this year due to a higher volume of applicants? The 3 of us were just in San Antonio last week for the AAMC conference. We did see some data that there was about a 6% increase in number of applications. And actually, I haven't told you all this. I actually emailed AMCAS after the conference and said, hey, there's a missing data point. Can you confirm whether or not this is true? There's a higher number of applicants and they are seeing also a higher number of designations or applications per applicant. So it's kind of a double whammy. My guess is that it's not going to be huge, but maybe like 18 point, whatever it is now to a higher 18 point something or a low 19. So it's not going to go from like 18 to 25 schools per person on average. But I haven't noticed things moving slower. I don't know if either of you. I think everyone always thinks things are moving slower when they are actually in the process. They're like, oh, this seems slower than what I saw on Reddit last year. But when you're actually in the application cycle, I think the anxiety slows everything down. Either of you?
There have been a few schools that on interview days have come out and said that in info sessions to some of my students, that because we get so record number of applications, like we're very behind this cycle. But I think that like things are, to me, at a normal pace now. Yeah.
Is that a marketing thing? Like we get a record number every
We're
year.
amazing. We're wanted.
Every year.
Record. There's like we go from 1,000 to 1,001. It's like record year. I haven't.
It's like Apple every year. It's the best iPhone. Like, is it though?
Same thing. It's on marketing. No, I haven't heard or seen anything. I think maybe just the amount of information to digest by schools. But
yeah, and this came up earlier in the cycle. Like, oh, the verification process is taking longer, and I have data.
It really didn't.
Yeah, it didn't. I've been tracking data over the last couple of years of like every single day saying when like submission dates is AMCAS working on, and that was pretty consistent year over year. So things are moving. Is it a red flag if my most recent clinical hours are from volunteering as a medical assistant in a podiatry office? I had more clinical experiences in MD/DO fields, but like 2 years ago. Interesting question. Carlos, if the student has some MD/DO fields, I always say podiatry is as close to MD/DO as you can get. Do you think medical schools will be like, hey, wait a minute, you should go to podiatry school if you're in a podiatry office, or like you're working as a medical assistant, that's good enough?
This is not a cop out, and I don't want to use it as a cop out of like it depends on the program. I think some programs are going to be like, well, it's not an MD or a DO, right?
Yeah.
I think it's clinical work, but I think it's good to diversify your portfolio. I would maybe add some shadowing of MD/DO because I think it's also important to stay, I would say, up to date on the MD/DO, the field that you're going to go in, right? If that is what you want to do. But I think it's also going to be program dependent. I know some programs are going to be like, no, this is not, like, toss it out, right? Clear elimination of that experience. But you're going to have to diversify, I think, a little bit to make sure that you're better set for the process in terms of competitiveness.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Ashley says, if my first interview at a school started off weaker because I was nervous, but ended relaxed and conversational, and my second interview went very well throughout, how might that affect my chances? Ashley, you're overthinking this.
Way overthinking.
Way overthinking.
And
Great job.
The interview isn't the sole factor in the
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. And guess what? You're not the only student who is nervous at the beginning of an interview.
No.
So yeah, great job. Way to get relaxed there. This is very what med schools are good for people who crave or need math, especially calculus and physics? I asked ChatGPT and got a list of scary schools. I know what schools, graduate schools in math and physics, not med schools.
Masters and PhDs in math.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because there are a couple specialties that are good for this, but you don't specialize until after medical school. And so medical school is not math or physics heavy at all. Radiation oncology has a lot of math and physics, and nephrology actually is a lot of math. Got to calculate all those salt calculations, volume.
Nephrology, liver or kidneys? Remind me.
Kidneys. Yep. Kidneys. Hepatology is liver. Melmir. Hello, Melmir. Can't afford a do-it-yourself post-bacc. Should I go to the SMP route using loans? Graduated 2020 with all of the prereqs except biochem with a science GPA of 3.0. Indeed, this is one of the more common reasons why students do a master's level kind of quote unquote post-bacc. They do master's level work, whether it's an SMP specifically or just a master's in some sort of hard sciences, is because the government will pay for that advanced degree, or at least the classes towards that advanced degree, versus undergraduate level work is typically not something the government will pay for. What are the concerns of going the master's level route or SMP level route, if any, versus undergraduate level post-bacc?
I mean, the concerns financially, I think that's a very like personal kind of experience. And do you already have student loans? Do you want more loans? I mean, the programs tend to be very expensive. So it's almost like adding on an extra year of tuition for med school in a way. But I think at the end of the day, if you weigh the benefits of an SMP outside of just the classes, what other things are they offering? Are they offering a lot of pre-med advising where you would get a committee letter? Any other opportunities infused in the curriculum for getting research or being assigned to clinical sites? I think that everyone is different in terms of what they need from a post-bacc or grad program. And, is it infused in a med school? Is it a med school curriculum? Or is it just like kind of post-bacc grad classes? I think everyone is individual when it comes to a decision like this.
Good luck. I'm putting a link in YouTube, medicalschoolhq.net/club request. If you are part of a club at your school, we try to, on a weekly basis, have an advisor available to come and talk to your club. So go put in that request, and we'll try to set that up for you. I know we're nearing kind of the end of the semester, so potentially for next semester, can try to get you in. Trevor, should I do a post-bacc or have a really long senior year? There's no perfect answer there. Just get that trend up there. I think a lot of people are focused on having a completely separate GPA, having a post-bacc GPA, having a graduate GPA. I think they look at the PDF of the download from the application service and see that in the PDF there's nice little lines going high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, post-bacc, graduate, etc. But the medical schools can slice and dice and sort and filter and view it, all of the data points in any way that they want. And I don't think it's a big deal one way or the other. Just show that you're capable. All right. Keep the questions flowing. Dak Punk decided to pursue medicine after being a nuclear medicine tech for 3 years. How much do I use my story as a nuclear medicine tech into my personal statement if this patient exposure helped me decide to pursue medicine? Yeah. Carlos, that's the last part of that statement is the statement, right? Yeah,
I think you have to embed it in your story if that's what you decided. That's how sort of your journey made you click and say, no, I want to do medicine. I would like to say nuclear medicine sounds so cool. Just from like a wording choice. But yeah, you would have to sort of tell us in that journey, in that personal statement of where this desire to go from one to another, right? We do a lot of advising with folks that change careers, but there is a point in time where you switch from the decision you made maybe several years ago to where you're at now. And I think it's important to include it in your personal statement and explain how that sort of translates to you wanting to become now a physician.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the key is why is that making you want to be a physician and not, ooh, look, it prepared me to be a physician, I think is a big step there. Casper, when should I plan to take Casper or preview if I'm planning to apply May of 2026? So next cycle, as we're recording this. It's interesting. We were at the conference together last week, the AAMC conference. One of the things that I'd never thought about, but was mentioned was specifically for preview. Because preview, you can take it one cycle and use it for the next cycle. The idea of taking preview in like September, the year before you apply, just to get it out of the way. I was like, oh, I've never thought about it in that way, because you can't do that for Casper. Casper has to be taken the year that you apply. And if you need to reapply, then you have to retake Casper. I've argued with them. Like, why do you do that? So that's one potential. Is taking it the year before, similar to how some students take the MCAT early as well, the year before they apply. Casper, you can, as of today, Casper opens up in March now that you can start taking it for the cycle. They are moving toward, and I don't know if you guys heard this, it was just a conversation with Kelly, the co-creator of Casper. They're moving to having Casper starting in January. It won't be for this next cycle, but that's what they're moving toward. So as soon as January hits, you can take it for that next year, which I think will be nice just to get it out of the way again.
What's the reason? More money? More windows?
I think more windows is the biggest thing. Yeah, I'm sure there's a capitalistic side of it as well. They're competing against preview, and so I think the more that they can offer compared to preview, the better. Yeah, we shall see. Let's see. Here's an interesting question. On the topic of post-bacc, I made it halfway through a chiropractic school before deciding to withdraw and pursue medicine as I've always wanted. I believe I had over 90 credits, and I also took organic chemistry, biology too at a nearby college while in chiropractic school. How does this look as a post-bacc? Sort of do it yourself. It's not. You went to chiropractic school and then you dropped out. Does that hurt, Dina? Going to another professional school and then dropping out?
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen students start nursing school and realize it wasn't their path, or physical therapy and realize it's not their path. I think the important thing is conveying to medical schools in your writing and in your application why you made that switch. And convincing schools that medicine is the right path for you. Like, have you gained exposure outside of that now? Like shadowing different specialties and working with patients in a more traditional medical setting. That's what would be important to me. Yeah.
There's two that I know of, and I'm sure there's plenty more. Two that I know of, TikTokers right now that are former chiropractors now in medical school, and so it's a common track. First of all, congratulations for seeing the light and coming to the evidence-based world of medicine. Yeah. Go for it. I just wonder why the question of do it yourself post-bacc. My guess would be maybe they chose the chiropractic route because their grades maybe weren't as good. Maybe they struggled. They took the MCAT and struggled with it. I would guess that there would be a stigma of, oh, you did great in your chiropractic school, but it's chiropractic school. You need to go and maybe do some more post-bacc work. In undergraduate level classes or a master's level class, potentially, depending on what your grades look like. Good luck. Lax 2054. I had to do a summer phlebotomy clinical for my major requirement in undergrad. Can this be a clinical experience entry, or because it's a course on my transcript, the hours don't count? Carlos, this comes up all the time of like, I did research. I did this other course. Can I put it in my activity list? We often call that activity list the extracurricular activities, but I don't think there's really a hard line rule about that. What do you think?
There isn't a rule. I think you just have to be, for me, I think you have to be very careful of separating it and not just saying, well, I took the course and I'm going to translate the same thing, right? Separate it and write it like an experience versus just trying to fill in like a gap. That's the key here, is really writing it to seem like the experience was of value added to your application versus like, I did it because it was part of my requirement and these are the things I did in it. There's just a way of writing it. I personally don't like that just because I feel like it's double dipping, but that's just my own personal belief. Sometimes I feel because it's an easy experience, right? Like, oh, I took the class and I got experience. Great. I did two things at once. But if you're going to do it, make sure you separate them and write it from the experience perspective in your experience section and not just as a course.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Lots of update letter of intent questions. We covered a bunch of that earlier today. Does it matter what you do a master's in? For example, I may do one in exercise physiology. Would this give me a leg up on getting into medical school? Dina, my stance on getting a leg up is nothing gives you a leg up. it's been done. The med schools aren't going to go, oh my gosh, a master's in exercise physiology. We've never seen that before. That's amazing. I always worry when students jump to a master's in public health as a way to improve their grades.
Which is a dime a dozen in admissions, by the way.
Everyone does it. And it's not hard sciences, so you're not proving that you can handle the academics. Exercise physiology is mostly going to be science-based physiology courses and biochemistry and all that kind of stuff. So it will potentially show academic rigor and academic ability. I just wonder about this whole leg up question.
I mean, you should pursue an advanced degree because you have a reason behind wanting to do it, not that you think it will give you a leg up. But I also think that in selecting a master's degree, there could be question as to whether you're committed like to medicine or something different, like physical therapy, or you got a master's in like literature, or something that just doesn't connect. Like, I think in your application, everything has to kind of tie in and connect to one another, if that makes sense. I think I need more context as to like why you chose exercise physiology. I don't think it can give you a leg. I don't think anything can give you a leg up. I think everyone's situation is individual. Like, why not a master's in like biochem, or a master's in medical sciences or biomedical sciences? Like, why exercise physiology? The first thing I think of is like, why did you once think about wanting to go into physical therapy or something like that?
Yeah. I was an exercise physiology major in undergrad. I thought it was great. Lots of it hit most of the prereqs, if not all of them. So it was a fun one. But yeah, for a master's, it's an interesting
master's question. I think it's the choice is different, I think.
Yeah. Good luck. Our former chiropractic student, Carlos, very common question. How does the MCAT balance GPA, if at all?
It doesn't. They're individual. It's looked as, here's the MCAT score, here's the GPA. There's the saying of like the MCAT determines if you're going to be a good standardized test taker. The GPA assesses whether you're going to be able to push through the rigor of medicine. But it doesn't outweigh, the one doesn't outweigh the other, because we get that question all the time too. Like, well, I have a 3.0, but my MCAT was a 512. And it's like, it doesn't balance it out. It doesn't like cancel one or the other. It's looked at it as a picture of who you are.
Yeah. So. If a med school has a minimum GPA, whether it's public or not, and you've got a 528 on the MCAT, but your GPA is below that minimum, that's not gonna counter it. So
yeah. And if it is published, take that to answer the second part of like, is it worth pursuing a master's? I think if the school's published, we require a minimum GPA to move forward in our process, and you're somewhere below that, then it'd probably be in your best interest, right? If that's a program that you really want to apply to. For the most part, programs don't post their information. So I think you're just going to have to make that decision on your own.
Yeah, potentially schedule a 30-minute call, Chad, with one of our advisors, and just lay everything out and try to get some more kind of informed answer for you.
Yeah, and don't do a master's in physiology, because clearly there's a conversation about that. So I'm just joking.
Don't do that. All right. Trevor asks, how much is science GPA weighted against the cumulative GPA? How do med schools care about most, both equally? Question mark. It depends on the med school.
Depends on the med school.
Depends on the med school. I would generally say science, probably, but I was last year's AAMC conference, there was one school that said our data is showing that the success of a student actually correlates better with their cumulative GPA than their science GPA. which was interesting. I don't know if there are any published studies about that, but it's going to be each individual school anyway.
When I was doing admissions work, there was, I forget what school it was, and I'm not going to name them until I start a fight. Like, they did this whole weird formula of like, if your GPA is here, then your science GPA must be here. And if your science GPA is here, like, we don't look at your total GPA. Now we look towards the MCAT, but then we also look at the prereq coursework and see how you performed in each of those. And I was like, that's too much work.
That's an algorithm. Yeah.
Right. But it was like,
math.
it was a combination of things. And like, some things didn't make sense because like, why would you not disregard total GPA if the science GPA is up here? And it was a whole sort of convoluted response, but they made it work. And I think they're successful in what they did. So
yeah. Yep. Oh, it's fun. Ashley again asking a question that can't be answered, but we'll ask it anyway. When admissions committees make acceptance decisions, do they compare applicants against each other? And if you aren't selected in one decision wave, are you then compared against again with the next group?
Some
or are you
schools do
just
that.
placed in the rejection pile and informed at the next rejection wave?
Depends.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the school. Every school is going to do something different.
we did that.
At the end of the day, if you're not rejected, you're not rejected. If you're not accepted, you're not accepted. And you just got to go with that.
You could drive yourself crazy trying to figure out things
Oh,
that
they
you
do.
have no control over.
They do drive themselves crazy. But yeah, it's so stressful. And then they go onto Reddit and Student Doctor Network, and someone says, "Oh, I was accepted," and then someone says, "Well, when did you apply?" And then you go, "Wait, I applied before that, and I haven't gotten anything." And then, "Well, what does that mean about me?" And oh my gosh, and just go out and run if you can.
We were transparent though when people came to interview, and we told them how not decisions were made, but how the group was compared. So we didn't hold back that information.
That's amazing.
I don't know if it made it less nerve-wracking, or if it made it more complex because now you want to know the additional detail, right? But the conversation is like, I don't know, those happen in isolation with committee members. But so
yeah. J. I got my first acceptance last week. Thank you for all the free advice. FYI, I did it with a C in OChem, so it's possible. Now I know you're just lying. It's impossible to get into med school with a C in OChem. Don't troll us. Congrats, J. That's fantastic.
Congrats.
That's amazing. Guy who applied to 50 plus schools update. Hello. Got into one of the Ivies. I can't thank you guys enough for all of your help over the years. Amazing. Why'd you apply to 50 plus schools? I remember this from it was a few weeks ago, I think. That's fantastic. Getting into school. Dina, Carlos, any parting words of wisdom other than don't drive yourself crazy?
I think the default is it depends on the school.
Depends on the school. That's we should change our pre-med office hours name to Welcome to Depends on the School.
Sponsored by Depends.
Sponsored by Depends. Hey, if Deion Sanders can get a tent toilet on the sideline sponsored by Depends, we can let's make a graphic for that. Depends on the school. We throw up the graphic. Depends.
Brought to you by.
I love it. And on that note, we will end here. Thank you everyone for coming, hanging out. Pre-med office hours almost every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. MCAT office hours almost every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Come learn for free. That's what we're here for. If you want something a little bit more in depth, a little more personalized, we do that as well. medicalschoolhq.net. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.